David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here. Really appreciate it.
So tell me about the things that the top COOs is doing today that firms aren't necessarily doing. Can you tell me about those?
Well, sure. I have quite a few friends who are in the COO role at different firms, of various sizes. And, everybody's very competent. They have their job and they know their stuff. But I think that some people are doing less to develop their staff at any one time. And one in particular said, "Oh wow, we don't let any junior people into our operational diligence meetings." And those meetings are so critical that what if they said something that the allocator wouldn't want to hear? And I was like, well, sure, but then if you actually invite the junior people into the meetings, they learn so much about what actually matters to the most important people for what we're doing. And I think they get so much insight. So I invite a lot of junior people into those meetings. And I'm always wanting to be learning, doing webinars, going to conferences, and going outside of what their core role would normally entail. And I think that it creates a depth of their understanding where they can make connections. And they build sort of a lattice work of mental models like Charlie Munger used to say was important. So yeah, I just don't know if everybody's thinking about teams that way.
No, I suppose not. And I guess this kind of ties into succession planning as well and building that confidence and I guess career paths for junior team members.
Yeah, no, that's been very important to me. And the perception of each of the team members by my business partners from the investment side is also really important to me. And, I spend some time coaching them on if they have a deliverable, for the CIO or something. I have a lot more insights into what he would want to see. And, I really try to communicate to them so that they, have the best impression possible and the most fair impression possible. So that, maybe if they do something in a way that's not his style, he doesn't look down on it in a way that would be unfair. And that's it's an important thing because I always want to be giving people more and more responsibility so that, collectively, if I got hit by a meteor, they could work together to run the place and have the connections. But in addition to that, the people that report to like my CCO, my CFO, I want them to be having the most development as well. We don't want people sort of narrowly in roles that they're not making any progress.
That makes sense. And I think you kind of mentioned the risk management element of it. Should anything happen to you or anything like that, then there's somebody else to kind of pick up the mantle. Do you feel like that materially impacts the firm?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's all sorts of things that could go wrong. And it's so important that people are able to identify things in advance before there's a big problem. So we have a weekly operations team meeting. And in those meetings, it's what did somebody learn that everybody else should know? That's one of the topics. And people bring stuff up all the time. Hey, this happened. We got ahead of it. But if any of you see this, be on the lookout. Maybe it's just a nuance of like the way information gets presented. Sometimes things can be confusing. And sometimes if you have garbage in, garbage out, you can go down the wrong path and have wasted a lot of time.
And do you find things like investor expectations that come into conversations in these meetings, how have they changed over time?
So yeah, the expectations of operational diligence groups at the big institutions are constantly evolving and, in a way that the expectations are getting more and more strict. And really, they've just seen more and more things go wrong at any one fund. And then they have a feedback loop of saying, all right, what are the rest of the funds doing on this front? I was actually having a conversation with an allocator a year ago during the tariff crisis. And during the tariff crisis, the CDS rates on a lot of the banks had skyrocketed. And I explained to that allocator, I was like, hey, we are about ready to start moving balances from high CDS rate banks to the lower ones. And about a week later, he sent a questionnaire to his entire client base that he covers saying, what are you doing about counterparty risk? So, things change over time. I think that things that were nice to see at funds are now table stakes, and they're, baseline expectations.
Interesting. So with that in mind, with all these changes in mind and transformations of expectations, what do you think a modern COO needs to possess?
I think you just need to be as broadly knowledgeable as possible across all the areas. I think that you need to, if you're the COO, you need to know pretty much as the CCO about compliance. Maybe you're not doing the day-to-day reviews, but you really need to know those rules. You should understand how your accounting works. You should understand what the marketing message is of your firm. You should be able to market the firm, right? You should be able to put everything together. You should have a really good idea of what the investment team's doing. And I think most importantly, you need to have time to always be diving into things that are at the tip of the spear. And for us, 2 years ago, it was factor analysis. Right now, it's everything about AI. We're doing an entire AI review of what people have learned internally and trying to create a best practices commonality among people at the firm. There's a lot going on there.
Amazing. David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.